Hello, welcome back to the Sense Check Lab, where we put today's lifestyle trends under the microscope and fact-check the common sense with scientific researches. Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into something almost all of us interact with daily: fruit. We're going to really unpack the common perceptions versus the sometimes surprising scientific researches surrounding whole fruit, smoothies, and fruit juices. Our mission today: cut through the noise, understand the real nutritional differences, and uncover the true impact each form has on your diet, your weight, and crucially, your blood sugar. We're going to peel back the layers on whole fruits, then blend into the surprising truths about smoothies, and finally, squeeze out the facts on fruit juices.
It's a perfect topic for a deep dive. There's just so much conflicting information out there, isn't there? And what's fascinating here, I think, is just how profoundly the form of our food, whether it's whole, blended, or juiced, can impact its effect on our bodies. We're here to synthesize what the latest research has revealed.
All right, let's unpack this then. Before we dive into the blended versus whole fruit debate, we really need to talk about the unsung hero at the heart of it all: dietary fiber. We hear that term a lot. But what exactly is dietary fiber, and why is it so incredibly important for our health?
Right, so dietary fiber is essentially the part of plant material in our diet that our bodies can't fully break down through digestion. Think of it as the resilient framework of plants. It's broadly categorized into two main types: water-insoluble fibers, things like cellulose, which don't dissolve and add bulk. And then you have water-soluble fibers like pectin, which do dissolve in water and often form a kind of gel. And each category plays, well, unique and really crucial roles in our bodies.
Okay, unique roles. So what does this amazing fiber actually do for us? What are its superpowers, so to speak?
Well, according to a wealth of researches, fiber offers a powerhouse of benefits. It's quite impressive, actually. First off, insoluble fiber adds bulk to our diet. This is key for promoting satiety, that feeling of fullness.
Ah, so it helps you feel full faster, maybe reduces appetite.
Exactly. And then the soluble fiber is particularly interesting. It attracts water and forms that gel during digestion I mentioned. Now, this gel acts like a kind of net. It traps carbohydrates and significantly slows down the absorption of glucose.
I see. So that means it helps manage blood sugar levels.
Precisely. It leads to much lower variance in blood sugar levels, preventing those sharp spikes and subsequent crashes. It's a big deal for metabolic health. But it doesn't stop there. Researchers also highlight that fiber significantly helps lower total and LDL cholesterol.
LDL, that's the bad cholesterol.
That's the one. So lowering it reduces the risk of heart disease. Fiber also plays a role in regulating blood pressure, which can potentially reduce the risk, or at least the symptoms, of metabolic syndrome. That cluster of conditions like high blood pressure, high blood sugar, things that can lead to more serious issues like type 2 diabetes.
Wow, okay. And digestion. I always hear fiber is good for digestion.
Absolutely fundamental for it. Fiber speeds the passage of food through your digestive system and adds bulk to stool. So it's very effective at alleviating common issues like constipation. It even helps balance intestinal pH and stimulates the production of short-chain fatty acids. Some researchers suggest these may reduce the risk of colorectal cancers. For healthy adults, the general recommendation is to aim for somewhere between 20 and 35 grams of dietary fiber each day.
That's a truly impressive list of benefits. It really drives home why fiber isn't just good for you, it's, well, absolutely essential. And this understanding of fiber really sets the stage perfectly for our deep dive into the different forms of fruit because, like you said, that's where the differences truly emerge. Let's start with what most people would consider the gold standard: whole fruit. What do the researchers say about consuming fruit in its natural, unprocessed form?
All right, the whole fruit. We're talking about the fruit as nature intended: skin, pulp, maybe seeds, the whole package. The World Health Organization, for instance, has a clear recommendation: at least 400 grams, which is about 5 portions, of fruit and vegetables per day. And that excludes things like potatoes, the starchy roots, and whole fruits. They're naturally packed with dietary fiber. We just talked about how important that is. To give you some concrete examples from various researches, an unpeeled apple typically has about 2 grams of fiber per 100 grams. A kiwi, even higher, maybe around 3.4 grams. Oranges, about 1.8 grams.
So eating the whole fruit means you get all of that fiber intact.
Exactly. You get all that intact fiber, which, as we just discussed, helps slow down digestion, gives you a steady release of energy and nutrients, and crucially keeps you feeling fuller for longer. Think about it. When you bite into a whole apple, you're not just getting vitamins. You're getting this complete, perfectly designed package that works synergistically with your body.
That makes perfect sense. The whole structure matters.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and now let's move on to smoothies. They're incredibly popular, right? Often marketed as these amazing health powerhouses. But there's also this significant concern floating around, especially about, sugar spikes and whether blending destroys the fiber. So are they a blended blessing or maybe a hidden betrayal? What do the researches, like the one titled, Does Blending Fruits Affect Their Fiber, Nutrients, or Sugar, really tell us?
Yeah, this is where the science gets really interesting and, frankly, might turn some common assumptions on their head. A
Oh.
lot of people worry that blending pulverizes the fruit cells, releasing sugar super fast and causing a big blood sugar spike. But quite a bit of recent research, including findings highlighted by sources like Bonita Beasley, indicate that blending often has the opposite effect.
The opposite effect.
Yeah.
Really? How so?
Well, it seems blending can actually release more fiber, particularly the soluble kind, which then helps to slow the digestion of sugar and actually blunt that blood sugar response. One specific study even found that blending fruits like mangoes, bananas, passion fruits, raspberries, kiwis, and pineapples actually reduced their impact on blood sugar compared to eating them whole.
Reduced it. That's completely counterintuitive to the whole smoothies or sugar bombs idea.
It is, isn't it? And another study backed this up, showing that common fruit smoothies like banana and strawberry consistently had a low glycemic index, under 40.
Okay, so if blending isn't necessarily bad for blood sugar, what about the fiber itself? Does blending actually destroy it, like some people claim?
That's another common concern. And again, the research offers a more nuanced view. Blending does physically pulverize the fiber. It breaks it into smaller pieces. But this isn't necessarily a bad thing. Often it's actually a positive. It can release more of that beneficial soluble fiber, the type that really helps with blood lipids and blood sugar.
So smaller pieces might actually be better in some ways.
Potentially, yes, especially for releasing soluble fiber. Now, if a fruit already has very little tough fiber, the benefit might be smaller. But the research suggests there's certainly no harm done to its function. And regarding nutrients, blending can actually make them more bioavailable.
More available, how does that work?
Think of it like chewing your food really, really thoroughly. Blending helps break down the plant cell walls, making the nutrients inside more accessible for your body to absorb. Plus, for fruits with tiny edible seeds like strawberries or raspberries, blending can help crack those open and release the nutrients for the seeds too.
Okay, so blending isn't the nutrient villain some make it out to be, but what about oxidation? When a smoothie turns brown if you leave it out, like with apples or bananas?
That's a fair point. Blending does expose more of the fruit's surface area to air, which can lead to some oxidation, some browning. But honestly, you typically need to leave a smoothie sitting out for quite a long time for that browning to become significant. And even then, the nutrient loss usually isn't substantial enough to negate the overall benefits.
And what about people who say smoothies give them digestive issues? Is that the blending?
Well, researchers suggest that's less about the blending process itself and more about how we consume them. Often, the problem comes from, frankly, chugging enormous, very high-calorie smoothies really quickly, or maybe loading them up with large amounts of ingredients that can be hard to digest for some people, like maybe lots of dairy or raw oats.
Ah, so it's the volume or the speed, not the blending of the fruit itself.
That seems to be the case most often. The advice usually isn't to ditch smoothies, but maybe make smaller ones or just drink them more slowly. Let your digestive system keep pace.
Okay, but this is where it gets a bit tricky, right? Because while you've explained how blending can be beneficial, releasing fiber, I've definitely seen other studies and lots of online chat claiming blender blades destroy fiber and make sugar absorb faster. How do we reconcile these seemingly conflicting viewpoints for people listening?
That's a crucial point, and yeah, it highlights why nutrition science can seem confusing sometimes. There are different perspectives. The general consensus from a broad body of research, however, seems to lean towards the idea that while the physical structure changes, the overall health benefit of the fiber for blood sugar, for lipids, is often maintained or sometimes even enhanced with blending.
Yeah.
The key idea is that pulverized fiber isn't necessarily destroyed in terms of its biological function, it's just smaller.
Okay, so the function might remain even if the structure is different.
Largely, yes. But there is a specific nuance worth mentioning, particularly with bananas. Bananas are rich in an enzyme called polyphenol oxidase, or PPO.
PPO. Got it.
Right. And if you blend bananas with other fruits that are rich in beneficial compounds called flavonols, think of the lovely anthocyanins in blueberries, for example.
Right.
And then you let that smoothie sit around for a while, this PPO enzyme from the banana can actually start breaking down those delicate flavonols from the blueberries.
Breaking them down so you lose the benefits.
You can lose a significant amount, yes. One research found that if you blend blueberries with bananas and let it sit for just 30 minutes, you could lose up to 84% of those anthocyanins.
Wow, 84%. That's huge if you're drinking it specifically for those blueberry antioxidants. So, for someone who loves their banana and blueberry smoothie, what's the practical takeaway? Should they stop?
Not necessarily stop, but if maximizing those flavanols is a priority, you have a couple of options. You can make sure you get flavanols from other sources in your diet, things like green tea, dark chocolate are good sources. Or if you're blending bananas with flavanol-rich fruits like berries, just drink your smoothie right away. Don't let it sit.
Ah, drink it fresh. How much do you save then?
If you drink it quickly, you'll probably still retain about 70% of those flavanols. So it's not a total loss, just something to be mindful of. It's about understanding these little interactions.
Okay, that makes sense. Be mindful of the banana enzyme.
Exactly. And on a more positive note regarding smoothies, many researchers, and you see this echoed in health communities online too, consistently point out that homemade smoothies are an absolutely excellent way to sneak in extra greens and other vegetables.
Oh, yeah, like spinach or kale, things maybe you wouldn't eat raw otherwise in large amounts.
Precisely. It can be a real game changer for boosting your intake of those super nutrient-dense foods that might be, let's say, challenging to eat whole in large quantities. A smoothie becomes the perfect vehicle.
That's a fantastic point, especially for getting more veggies in. Okay, so we've covered whole fruit, the gold standard, and the surprisingly complex world of smoothies. Now, what does all this mean for pure fruit juice? This is another really popular choice, often seen as a quick, easy way to get your fruit servings in. But it also carries its own health warnings, right? Especially when we talk about 100% juice versus concentrates. What's the bottom line here?
Right, fruit juice. The key difference, and this is consistently highlighted across multiple researches, Baptist Health, Healthline, nutritional guidelines, is the fiber, or rather, the lack of it. When you juice fruits or vegetables, you're essentially extracting the liquid and leaving behind the pulp and skin, which is where most of the fiber resides.
So the fiber is lost in the juicing process.
Almost entirely, yes.
Yeah.
And this fiber loss has really profound consequences. Without that crucial fiber to slow things down, fruit juice, even if it's genuinely labeled 100% juice with no sugar added, can end up being, as some researchers bluntly put it, basically just sugar water with flavor.
Sugar water, even from 100% fruit.
From a blood sugar perspective, largely yes. Because the fiber isn't there to stabilize things, the natural sugars in the juice hit your bloodstream much faster, leading to potentially much sharper spikes in blood sugar compared to eating the whole fruit.
So it's that fundamental lack of fiber that's the main issue.
It's the critical issue. In fact, the World Health Organization actually classifies the sugars naturally present in fruit juices and fruit juice concentrates as free sugars.
Free sugars, what does that mean?
It means they put them in the same category as sugars that are added to foods by manufacturers or cooks, or the sugar you'd add yourself. Honey and syrups are also in this category. WHO recommends keeping free sugar intake below 10% of our total daily energy, and ideally even less than 5% for greater health benefits.
And why is that? What are the risks of too much free sugar?
Well, high intake is directly linked to dental caries, tooth decay. It also significantly contributes to unhealthy weight gain, which can lead down the path to overweight and obesity. And more recent researches are showing stronger links between high free sugar intake and negative impacts on blood pressure and serum lipids, which are, of course, risk factors for cardiovascular disease.
So juices contribute to all those risks.
They contribute to your total free sugar intake, yes. The American College of Cardiology, cited by Baptist Health, actually stated that whole food consumption is preferred over liquid diets like juicing. They suggest juicing might be reserved for very specific situations, like if someone has difficulty meeting their fruit and vegetable intake otherwise, but always with careful guidance to avoid loading up on sugar and excess calories.
Okay. Are there any redeeming qualities to juice? Does it still have vitamins?
Oh, sure. Juice, especially from concentrates, might still contain some beneficial plant compounds, things like anthocyanins, carotenoids, flavonoids, depending on the fruit. Still have some nutritional value. But, and this is the key takeaway, it fundamentally lacks the crucial fiber that only the whole food provides. It's just not a substitute for eating whole fruits.
Right. So if we try to tie all this together now, we've looked at whole, blended, and juiced. Thinking about the listener, is a smoothie a healthy choice or a sugar bomb? Is a fruit juice a healthy choice or a sugar bomb? Ultimately, what's the best choice most of the time, and maybe what's the one we should be most cautious about? Can you give us the bottom line?
Okay, the bottom line. Let's break it down simply. Whole fruit. Generally, this is almost always your best bet, your top choice. Why? You get the intact fiber, the natural sugars are delivered slowly and steadily, you get the full spectrum of nutrients, and it promotes satiety. It helps you feel genuinely full.
Okay, whole fruit wins gold. What about smoothies? Healthy or bomb?
Smoothies. These can be a remarkably healthy choice, especially homemade ones where you control the ingredients. Think adding leafy greens, nuts, seeds to complement the fruit. As we discussed, researchers show they can actually improve nutrient digestion and surprisingly often even blunt that blood sugar spike compared to expectations. The key is mindfulness. Watch your portion sizes, maybe don't chug them, and be aware of little things like the banana PPO effect if that matters to you. So not necessarily a bomb, often quite healthy, but requires some thought. It's about leveraging the benefits without overdoing it.
Right. Potential depends on how you make and consume them. And finally, juice.
Fruit juices. Generally, these are the least ideal choice for regular daily consumption. Why? They strip away arguably one of the most vital parts of the fruit, the fiber. This leads to that rapid sugar absorption, contributes significantly to your free sugar intake, and that increases risk for dental health, weight management, and metabolic issues down the line. So best to limit them significantly. Think of them more as an occasional treat or perhaps a very specific tool in certain situations. Definitely not your go-to daily health drink.
That's a really clear and actionable summary. Whole fruit first. Smoothies can be great with care. Limit the juice. It simplifies a pretty confusing landscape.
Absolutely. And, just understanding how processing, even something as simple as blending or juicing, affects our food's nutrients helps us navigate those grocery aisles, or even just our own kitchens with a sharper eye. It makes you consider how that transformation ripples through our body's intricate systems. Maybe ask yourself, what small changes can you make in your daily intake to maximize those natural benefits we talked about?
A great question to leave our listeners with. Thanks so much for breaking all that down for us.
My pleasure.
Thanks for joining us at the Sense Check Lab. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with your friends and hit that follow button so you never miss an episode. Until next time, stay curious and remember, we're here to make sense of the science behind the trends.